How's it going, everybody? Kevin Geist here with Coach Frank Kern, and we're here for Season 3 of the Puck Drop podcast. We're going to be talking a little bit of playoff hockey. We're going to be talking a little bit of post-tryout wind down for youth hockey, and a little bit of just regular hockey talk.
Little drips and drabs?
Yeah, that's it, right?
Okay.
So, first off, let's talk about NHL, right? Got NHL playoffs, final game here tonight. That's still going to kind of determine who's going to play who in the West, but in the East, it's pretty much all set. What's one matchup that you're really looking forward to?
I'd like to see the Canadiens, Tampa Bay. I think that's going to be a very interesting series. You know, you got a team with a lot of speed with Montreal, and Tampa Bay, great goaltending. And I think Tampa Bay is going to be a tough out for Montreal. I do. I think Hedman's going to play, and I just think I like Tampa Bay a little bit there. I think it's an interesting series.
Yeah.
Montreal's been on the up and up in the last few years. They keep getting better and better, and that's just what I think a little bit.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think the Montreal and Tampa series is awesome in the sense that you have a team like Tampa Bay who they're the veteran group. They've been there. They know how to win. And then you have this young, up-and-coming, fast Montreal Canadian team that is just loaded with young superstars.
Yeah.
Or you have Cole Caulfield,
Suzuki,
you got Hudson on the blue line, you get Dobson on the blue line. It's just, the team is just, it's one of those fun, young, fast teams that everyone's going to fall in love with. And I think that, I don't know if this is their year, but that's going to be a team that's going to be very dangerous going forward.
Yeah.
For multiple years to come.
Mm-hmm.
And, personally, I think that Tampa Bay is my pick to come out of the East, just because, again, we go back to, you have the veteran goaltending, you've got the veteran leadership. John Cooper just knows how to win. That's what he does. He wins. And, you got guys like Kucherov at the top.
Yeah.
You lose Stamkos, you figure that could be a huge hit, but then you have benchmans that, you got guys who step right up.
You kind of know what you're getting with them too.
Yeah.
Because they have the experience, they know how to win.
100%. Victor Hedman, Kucherov, Nagel, you got grinders like Ciccarelli and guys like that and Hagel, and just guys who know how to get it done in the playoffs.
The one outlier when I look at the NHL playoffs is, if you go back through history, you take it like a guy who used to play for the Devils, Claude Lemieux. He was a guy who was like an average guy in the regular season, and when it came to playoff time, the guy was money all the time. And you could have three guys in the Canadiens who really haven't had much playoff experience, and maybe they turn out to be Claude Lemieux, and the series is a completely different thing. And just some things you never can tell, you never can count on.
Yeah.
So, also too, if you watched last year's playoffs, I can't tell you how many goals I watched that were ping pong off somebody's helmet, off somebody's skate, off somebody's stick. So again, back to getting pucks in there. But if I had to pick one, I would go with Tampa Bay also.
Yeah, playoff hockey is just filled with that sense of urgency.
Yeah.
From the first puck drop, it's imagine the scramble of that last 5 minutes of a one-goal game. That's that across an entire game. That's kind of the sense of anxiety and urgency that you get throughout the whole game. That's why playoff hockey is so awesome. And another big series that I really like is going to be Buffalo and Boston.
Mm-hmm.
I think Buffalo and Boston's exciting. It's you have a team like Buffalo who's just been a bottom feeder in the NHL for so long.
Yeah.
To be the top seed in the East.
Yeah.
Quite the turnaround. You get guys like Tage Thompson who just leads the charge, and a ton of young players on that team. A lot of speed, a lot of grit, a lot of just consistent scores. And even Boston on the other side, a team that everyone talked about, a team that in the offseason everybody said, what are they doing? What's the direction? They're signing a whole bunch of these third line guys. It almost felt like a team that was tanking from the get-go.
Yeah.
And they just turned around and proved everyone wrong.
Yeah. And Pasternak, a fourth 100-point season. Geeky all of a sudden got hot.
Yeah.
He got hot again. He was cold. He went like 12 games without a goal, and all of a sudden he's taken off again. So I think you're right. It is an interesting series. Should be fun.
Yeah, and then from the Metro, you have old school Pennsylvania series.
Yeah.
Flyers, Penguins. For me, when I think of Flyers, Penguins, And I'm going to make myself, I'm sorry, Frank, I'm going to probably make myself feel young and make you feel a little older. When I think Flyers Penguins, it brings me back to like when I was in high school and middle school, and you have the series of guys like Crosby and Malkin, Letang, and Fleury versus guys like Danny Briere and those Flyers teams that were just bruisers and slugfests of going back and forth. And it brings back an old school feeling of rivalry with those two teams.
Oh yes,
that's really exciting.
Yeah. Well, you got Crosby, who obviously he's won about 3 cups now.
Yep.
And he's a big guy in the locker room for them. But I'm gonna lean towards the Flyers. The reason why I just like the fact that they've won like 19 in the last 23 games. That they're hot. They've been playing playoff hockey for a while, and a lot of times that just continues on to the playoffs. And I just think that the Flyers are playing their best hockey right now. I think they're going to be a tough out for the Penguins.
Yeah, it's going to be tough for the Penguins. I think it's one of those situations though too, kind of like Boston, where no one really gave Pittsburgh a chance at all this year. They were an aging team.
Yeah.
One last ride. Who knew? People in the beginning of the season were talking about who are Crosby and Malkin and these guys going to get traded.
Coach change too, right?
Coach change. They all talk about all these little X factors of reasons why the Penguins aren't going to be good and what's going to happen to the Penguins and these superstars in my front. And now it's almost like a swan song for Crosby. That's a team that has a lot of winning mentality, a lot of winning caliber players and future Hall of Famers who almost have nothing to lose.
Yeah.
They're only playing for house money because no one outside that locker room expected them to compete. So a team like that I think is going to be very dangerous too. Where it's kind of in a sense of, like Tim was saying, teams that know how to win.
Yeah, that's true. They do have that, that breeding inside them there. I agree with that.
And it could be a situation where, Crosby is a guy that you never count out. He's a generational Hall of Famer, and when you put him in the playoffs, you can't count him out. He's always dangerous. He's always going to be out there for you. And so that's going to be another exciting one. And then the last one, you got Carolina and Ottawa. And it's another really interesting series in the sense that on paper, you say Carolina should dominate that team, but Ottawa's been, you talk about being hot, Ottawa's one of the hottest teams in the league.
They are.
And they're flying in. And another just young, up and coming, you got Brady Tkachuk, you got, a lot of good young players too on that team. I don't know if they have enough skill on the team to beat a team like Carolina. But Carolina, they choke. They
do. I was going to say just now, I think it's going to be tough for Ottawa to beat them 4 times in the series. I think Carolina is probably top 3 teams in the NHL. But like you said, every year they find a way to get beat. They have depth. If you look at their stats, they're like 3rd or 4th in the NHL in goals for. They're 2nd in shots. Their power play is good. But somehow when they get in the playoffs, something just disappears and the goaltending drops a little bit and they give up a bad goal here and a bad goal there. Like you said, on paper, they look very strong, but nobody ever wins anything on paper. And if you look past NHL, how many times have you seen 8 seeds knock out 1 seed? It happened to the Bruins a couple of years ago, right? Well, they had the best record in NHL history and got beat in the first round. So, but if I had to put my money down, I would say Carolina, but nothing would surprise me.
Yeah, I think Carolina is kind of like you said with, I don't know what team you said before, get out of the first round, but I don't know if they have a chance to go deep.
Yeah.
I think Carolina might be a team like that, but they have the skill. On paper, they have the talent to come out of the East 100%. But like we said, every year it's the same thing.
Right.
They say the same thing about Carolina. Every single year, this team is so great. Let's see how it goes. This is a favorite to win, and they get bounced. And
the Rangers actually knocked them out a couple of times.
Yeah, that's true. And then you move over to the West. What kind of matchups we got at the West? I just think from the West, the West is hard to count on Colorado.
Yeah.
Colorado is just low. That team is so good. They're so fast.
Yeah.
Top end talent, depth, goaltending. It's just excellent.
Yeah, they're going to be tough to beat. I mean, the matchup that I guess it'll be determined yet. We're not going to show who's going to play yet until after tonight. I do think Minnesota Dallas is locked in to play each other. I think that's going to be a tremendous series. Dallas is another team big, strong. They got tough guys. They got guys that have been around a while, but somehow they always find a way to get in the playoffs, and something just goes a little awry, and they end up not winning. So that's going to be a hell of a series. Minnesota picked up Hughes, so he's going to help them an awful lot. Big puck moving defenseman. I can't wait to watch that matchup. It should be tremendous.
It should be good. And then we have there's a lot of like just wild cards in the West of just young teams who no one expected to be there. They get Anaheim. Anaheim was just basically a dumping down of the offseason.
Yeah.
They take all of our veterans, take our contracts and all this, and they kind of willed their way. Cutter Gauthier is having an unreal season. Bennett Seneke has been great too. They found ways to win.
Yeah.
They're a young team that's kind of been anchored by a lot of their veterans, like Truman, Kreider, guys that dumped over there. But it's the young guys who are really leading the charge.
Yeah.
And that's going to be a team I think they're going to be a little bit like Montreal in the sense that I don't know if they're ready now, but that's going to be a team that's going to be good.
Yeah, I will say though, if the matchup stays the way it is right now, if they have to play Edmonton in the first round, Anaheim ranks 29th or 30th defensively, and they're one of the worst penalty killing teams in the NHL. And you're going against the best power play versus a team that can't kill a penalty.
Yeah.
That could spell for disaster.
Yeah.
So and then somehow McDavid, Bouchard, and Draisaitl, those guys step up big time in the playoffs. You look at McDavid's numbers. He just basically is almost unstoppable in the playoffs. And a team that gives up a lot of goals. Edmonton's not a great defensive team, but I think they would be down.
Yeah, Edmonton every year, their superstars basically drag that team to the playoffs.
Yeah.
They step up big time, they go through and they light it up, and they're always dangerous when they're on the ice. So you have a team like that where I agree, if they draw Edmonton, I don't really give them much of a chance.
Yeah.
Same thing with teams like Utah and the Kings. It's just it depends on who they draw, but. That's kind of what we have out there. That's the other one we're missing.
Yeah, we got Vegas and Utah, and if they play each other, the three of them are like Colorado, Kings, Vegas, Mammoth, Edmonton, Anaheim. It can change tonight depending on what happens. And if it stays the way it is, look at Vegas. They fired the coach, and now they go on an 8 or 9 game non-losing streak in regulation. So
Vegas is a scary team. They have a ton of talent. They got a ton of skill. A lot of guys who, again, know how to win.
New veterans, Stone.
Eichel, Stone. Marner's having a great year again with them this year. I think just some of those younger teams, when you have a younger team like Utah and, like you said, Anaheim, the teams like that, they're dangerous because there's a little bit of an unknown. There's a spark. You don't know what they're going to do, but it's the team that they play. They've got too many veterans. They got too many guys that know how to win. They got too many guys that know how to score. If you're a team that's still unsure who you're going to draw, you kind of hope that you would play Anaheim, or you hope that you would play the Kings or Utah, because it's any of the other options. It's nothing great.
Yeah, no.
If you lose out, if you lose tonight, and you have to play Colorado. You don't want to play Colorado.
Yeah.
Like if it turns out the Kings against Colorado first round, that might be a sweep.
Yeah, because the Kings just cannot score. But I think if you look at it the reverse way, I think that Edmonton would have a tough time with Colorado. But if you're Colorado, do you really want to see McDavid, Draisaitl, Bouchard? You don't want to see those guys because those guys are good enough to carry them through a series, right? So that's probably the one matchup that if I was Colorado, I don't think I would want to see them the first round. You may have to see them anyway, but I don't think I would be looking forward to that series if I was them.
No, that's the one matchup. If you're that top team, the one team you want to face is Edmonton because of that elite power, scoring that they have.
Yeah.
They will that team can simply outscore you.
Yeah. And another thing I worry about, one thing with Colorado too, their goaltending. The guy had a great season this year, right? Was it Wedgwood?
Yeah.
But he's not a Bobrovsky or he's not a Vasilevsky. So we don't know what he's going to be like playoff time, right? He's never really been he never had to play big minutes in a playoff series, and he's got to go against guys in the sharpshooters like that. It could turn quick. Don't forget too, Colorado's in the penalty box. I wouldn't want to be facing those three guys on a power play. That's a tough thing to beat.
No, that's definitely a tough draw. You don't want to face, and you see, it's a good point. Thing you see year in, year out. Guys who had a great regular season, and guys who had great regular seasons did nothing in the playoffs.
Yeah.
Right. And we talked about Carolina finding ways to lose. That kind of is what happened.
Yeah.
Many years we see Frederick Anderson have a great season.
Yep.
And just stink it up in the playoffs.
Well, you kind of watch, like, you go back and you look at the Rangers, and I'll say this, that Panarin is one of the most deceptive players I've ever seen in my life in the NHL. Here's a guy who's that big. He's not the fastest guy in the world, not the strongest guy in the world, but he's very deceptive. But when it comes playoff time, there's a little bit of a disappearing act there, right? He's not like he's been able to be shut down in playoffs, where so that's what I was saying before about the Canadians. There are guys that get in playoffs for the first time, you don't never know, and all of a sudden they're a hero. Or you get a guy like a stud, and all of a sudden he can't put a puck in the net.
Yeah, a lot of times I find the teams that go the farthest are the teams that have a really strong bottom six.
Oh, absolutely.
Forwards, right? It's the third and fourth line. It's that third and fourth line who can either put the puck in the net for a third line or can truly be a shutdown defensive line, right? Because if using Montreal, for example, you know that Cole Caulfield is going to see your best defenders, correct, in a 7-game series every single game, every shift that you can, and that's where the home games and the final change is going to be so huge to try to get good matchups, and that goes for NAT, that goes for when you're playing teams like Edmonton or Colorado, or better example would be like the Kings, who don't have as much depth, where Panarin's going to be facing your top players, right? Whereas other teams, you got a first and second line that can score, you have a third line that can score. It's a lot harder to make those matchups to figure out who you're going to put your shutdown guys in, because those teams, they don't need like McDavid's going to score, but let's say like Colorado. If McKinnon doesn't score, it's not the end of the world. No, because you got guys who on the second and third line who also easily put up 4 or 5 goals in a series, right? Whereas some of these other teams, like maybe Anaheim, right? If they try to shut down Cutter Gauthier, he might be easier to shut down, where they don't have as much depth behind them to score some goals.
If you look at what years ago with the Edmonton Oilers, if you read Messier's book, it talks about he could never do it by himself. And he talks about his other players. And when you look at that team, very hard to go back in history and find a better offensive team than that. You had Gretzky, and you had Curry, and you had Anderson, and you had Paul Coffey, and that team was just a machine offensively. Yet when you look at that, and even if you were able to shut those guys down, you still had Tikkanen and McTavish, and McTavish is the 4th line center who was could beat you on any night. Yeah. So that's the point you make with Colorado. Somebody like that, you shut down McKinnon, you still might be in a lot of trouble because you got plenty of depth behind there.
Yeah, especially considering he can still score against your best.
Yeah, sure.
So even if you limit him to 1 or 2 goals in the series, you're still going to score.
It was an interesting thing. I was reading a story that NHL players were talking about. They did a survey of who was the second best player in the NHL. And they all agreed, for the most part, that McDavid was definitely the best player. And when it came down to the second player, they were talking about McKinnon, Kucherov, I forget who the third guy was. But anyway, they were talking about McKinnon. McKinnon, when I looked it up, he's only like 6 foot 200 pounds, but the NHL players were talking about like how physically strong he is on his feet. Like he's almost impossible to knock over. And I was kind of amazed that this is like 6 foot 200 pounds is not exactly a giant in NHL. Yeah. But this guy is the power that he has is off the charts. Anyway.
Yeah. So all right, we got the playoffs. Who's coming out of the East? Who's coming out of the West? Stanley Cup matchup, and who's winning the Cup?
I hate to do this, but I'm going to go a little bit on the chalky side. I'm going to say Colorado goes to the finals, and because they are who they are. And in the East, I'm going to take a shot and say Carolina finally gets over the hump and makes it out. I'm between Carolina and Tampa Bay. But I'm going to go with Carolina, and I'm going to say Carolina plays Colorado in the finals, and I'm going to say Carolina wins the whole thing. I'm just going to take a little bit of a stand here. Going against the grain. But that's what I'm going to go with. How about you?
All right. My head logically tells me is Colorado, Tampa Bay. If I go by everything that's logically, the depth, the talent, the winning culture, those are two teams. To me, that's a fun series, but it's also a boring series because we've seen it, we've been there, right? So that's my logical pick, my fun pick. Let's say Dallas out of the West, and let's say Buffalo out of the East. Let's say Dallas, Buffalo, hold the rematch of the controversial skate in the crease overtime goal.
Yeah.
Right. Say Dallas wins the cup.
Yeah, it's funny because I thought about Dallas a lot, and every year it seems that Dallas reminds me of Carolina.
Yeah.
Because they both have really strong teams, and they both, Dallas's goaltending always seems like it's supposed to be good going to the playoffs, and so but I just think their first round matchup,
it's tough
against Minnesota.
It's very hard.
If they can get by that one, then but that first round matchup with Minnesota is going to be kind of tough.
And when you're coming out of the Central, like, think about this: your reward for winning that matchup is most likely Colorado.
Yeah.
Like, you have to go through. If you're Dallas, you have to beat Minnesota and then beat Colorado,
right?
And then you get whoever's out of the Pacific.
Well, just a quick little story to add to the end of this year. So, back in 1989, I was head coach of the Hudson Valley Empire State team, and I at that point in time I was lucky enough to meet Al Alba. Al Alba came down to my locker room. Al Alba, 4-time Stanley Cup champion for the New York Islanders, and we were playing Western New York. And when Alba came down to the locker room, he tapped me on the shoulder, and we talked for a couple minutes. And said, "Hey, Al, any good ideas for me for the rest of this game?" He said, "Just get pucks to the net." So, Mr. Al Alba, 40 years ago, you go to the same thing today, get pucks to the net. There you go.
Anything can happen. All right, we're going to transition from the NHL down to the youth side. We're going to talk a little bit of some post-tryout wind down, right? So now what happens, youth hockey tryouts are pretty much done. Everyone's teams are for the most part locked in. And you see a little bit of two sides to it, in the sense of you have some kids who they play hockey year round. You have some kids who take a break, they'll play some spring sports. They'll maybe play some casual spring leagues with their friends, and so on and so forth. As someone who's been in the industry for a very long time, what is your opinion on that post-tryout wind down, and what do you think is the best path for players once we're in the quote-unquote post-season?
Yeah, that's interesting, because the one thing I enjoy about the postseason tryouts is, most teams have some kind of turnover, transition, you get different players in. But back in the days when I played, the tryouts were September and October, mostly September, and then the season would start right away. And now the tryouts are in March and April. And the growth from somewhere between March and September and October could be tremendous. So and I always look forward to that, to see who comes in September and October, and all of a sudden this person's, over 6-7 months is sprung up. But I think the one thing that sometimes is a little bit overlooked is that, I'm a firm believer in playing multiple sports. So if there's a kid, now I don't think you should be off the ice completely during the summer, because you still should be playing. But kids that play other sports, I think it's also healthy mentally, right? You play baseball, you play basketball, and you play soccer. And I think that's, with my experience, I think there's a freshness mentally, and there's also a freshness physically, where you can just put something down for a little while. It's kind of like, having the same meal every day of the week, 7 straight days, and sometimes you could overdo yourself. And I do like that, to watch that part of it, to see somebody who will, be doing other sports and working on other skills. And many other sports have skills that are, like, you look at a sport like lacrosse. How great is that for hockey players? Like, like you're using your hands and your body. But I think the biggest thing for me is I just love the growth, not just in size, but the mentality and the physical part between, you're talking about March, and I guess you just had your tryouts here in April till September, October. So that's part of it I really look forward to.
Yeah, and I agree with you in the sense that I am also a big advocate for multiple sports. I do think that you do need a bit of a refresh. I do think that you don't want to risk burnout. If you sit there and you go 365, just the same speed, the same all hockey at the same level, just all year round. And I do think it's a case-by-case basis, right? That if you're a kid who might be in high school or you're a bit older and you're a true elite player, by that point you probably should have really kind of narrowed down, okay, I'm going to really focus on hockey. And if you're in that boat, yes, you should stick to a good schedule, a good regimen, and make sure that you stay active, you're eating well, you're exercising, you're getting in a routine, and that is very important. But if you're a 10, 11, 12, 13-year-old kid, play other sports.
Yeah, and I also think too that like when you take, for example, because we work at Cutting Edge, but I think at Cutting Edge the great part about that is that you can choose so many multiple different kinds of clinics to go to. You can go to a checking clinic, you can go to a skating clinic with L, you can go, there are many different ways you can go. You can skate with basic, how about even like the spring league? I mean, when you play this with, it's 3v3, it's nothing but fun, back and forth, but you're still on the ice. So I think that's an important thing to stick with, and it's like you said before, I think the thing that you said that really is important is it's an individual thing, right? So if you're a hockey player and that's all you like and that's what you want to do, I mean, you take a little break here and there, but then you just continue to play hockey. But I do think that there's especially like I said at Cutting Edge, there's so many different coaches and clinics and classes that you can take that can keep you fresh all the time. And if you just want to do something once a week, you can go over there once a week and go, get on the ice for an hour. And and you also have a variety of different kind of coaches, different kind of guys there that have specialized in different things. And I think that's a huge thing for a youth hockey player to think about that. But for example, my team, we have them in the spring league this year right now, and we split the kids up on different teams, and they played the other day, and it was a really fun game. The kids were back. One game was 12-11, so the kids had a good time. And a lot of think about it, but you can have playoffs, and you don't have the pressure there like you would during a regular season game, right? So you're going up and down, you're trying to create a little bit. I think that's and I just want to make one more interesting point, and I don't want to hog the thing here. But many years ago, I read a book about a Russian sports psychologist, and they asked him a question: what is the best way to learn how to become a great skater? Now you're talking about probably 1970, 75. And he said the best way would be to go to a public session. He said a crowded public session. And the reason why you go to a crowded public session is because you can create on your own. There's so many people in your way, you have to let a dot in between them and go wide and around them. You got to cut around and break around people. Where when you play the game, it's kind of simulates that a little bit. And but that's why watching the spring league was so much fun to watch these guys. These guys try to put it behind their back and make them play. So it was an enjoyment to it. That's my point.
Yeah, and I do think that there is a big aspect of unstructured learning that is really important. Creativity and finding what works for you and just really getting comfortable on the ice. I can't tell you how many times I'll skate with a kid, I'll have a lesson, I brought a lesson with a kid who's young, right? They're 8, 9 years old, 7 years old, in that range, and they're relatively new to the game, and a parent will come up to me afterwards and be like, "Oh, what do you think we should work on? How do they do? Do they listen? How do they look great? What do we do?" And just like you said, I tell them honestly, go to public skating. Go to public skating. When you're not doing lessons and whatnot, you're not doing training, go to public skating, because at that stage, it's just about getting comfortable on the ice.
Right.
And a lot of times when I skate with younger players who are beginners, we put cones up. We're skating around, and I call it unstructured learning, in the sense that it's not so much of, okay, we're doing this because this is game situational. These are where I would do with a 13, 14, 15-year-old kid, where you're working more on tight turns, cutbacks, picking pucks off the board, shooting from the line, walking the line, that kind of stuff, where it's more game situational. When you're working with a smaller kid, it's more unstructured fun learning, where it's just getting comfortable. It's just getting comfortable on your feet, getting comfortable with the puck on your stick, feeling the puck on your stick, and just doing the little things of just getting used to skating. And getting used to skating with equipment, because skating with equipment on versus skating without equipment on is very different. And to be able to know how that different feel is really important. A prime example, when we're out there and I'm demonstrating the drill, I'm out there, I'm flying, I'm feeling great, I can shoot the puck really hard, I can fly, I can skate really fast. And then I go play men's league and I got equipment on, I'm like, wow, I'm really slow and stiff. Right? So there is an aspect to skating with equipment on. 100%. People don't realize how different it is when you don't have equipment on.
Yes.
And so a lot of times it's that unstructured learning and having fun with it, because it's like anything in life. If you enjoy doing it, you're going to do it better. If you don't enjoy doing it, you're not going to get better at it, you're not going to learn. So if you're having fun while doing it, it's about like the 3-on-3 hockey.
Right.
Fun. You're out there, it's unstructured, just go have fun, play hockey with your friends. Right? And to kind of backtrack to what we were talking about before, the multiple sports, it's about having fun, stepping off the ice a little bit, and just playing lacrosse, playing baseball, playing whatever other spring, summer sports that you may play. That's going to be you're using different muscles, you're doing complementary activities to what you'd be doing on ice. You and I come from a baseball background as well, where that's a lot of lateral movement, there's a lot of hand-eye coordination, there's a lot of fast twitch reaction. Right, so those are complementary skills that also translate onto the ice. So when you're off the ice and you're doing these activities, you're having fun, you're taking a break mentally from the grind of the long hockey season to getting a little bit of a change of scenery, but you're still working on some of these skills that's going to translate and help you become a better athlete.
Absolutely, 100%. And the one thing that I wish would increase a little bit. I mean, obviously, I'm older than you are, but like people who are students of the game, I used to watch, I can't say how many hockey games I used to watch a year. And the kids today, like I have a few kids on my team who go to a lot of hockey games, watch a lot of games, watch them on TV, and we have, like, can I mention a name?
Yeah.
So I have, like, for example, one of the kids on my team, Zach Ryan, he goes to 30 double games a year. He's constantly watching games on TV, and he makes plays on the ice. Like, for example, it was a play that he made not that long ago. There was somebody who was going to shoot the puck the length of the ice, and he was on the other side of the red line. Instead of him catching the pass and trying to make a play, he had guys who just let it hit off the tip of his stick, and it was like a dump in. And those things are seen when you watch NHL games and you watch games on TV. And today, there are a lot of kids who just don't watch hockey. And I think that watching hockey is a huge way of learning the sport.
I totally agree with that. I think not enough kids watch hockey these days. Anytime I do a lesson, I always try to make small talk with the kids, try to connect with them and try to get to know them a little bit. And I always ask, who's your favorite hockey team?
Right.
Who's your favorite hockey player? Right. And it is very important to watch and emulate what those players do. And you sit there, it's very hard, obviously, if you have a child who's young, they're not going to be sitting there and analyzing the play. But as you get older and you're playing a little bit high-level hockey, don't just watch the game, watch the game and see what players do. My dad used to always tell me, find your favorite player on the team and watch what they do. What position do you play? I always played wing growing up. Okay, so I would watch players like Adam Graves and see what they would do on the ice in certain situations. Sure. And I think that's really important. I think that's lost in today's game sometimes. And I think it's not really so much a hockey thing. I think it's a cultural thing, just the way the kids are. Right?
And there's so much more to do today. You're right. So
that's what makes it a little bit tough. But I agree. I think you just got to watch hockey more. And, at the end of the day, like basis is, when you're in the off season, take a little bit of a break, breathe for a second, unwind, play something else, sprinkling some ice time, come to Cutting Edge, come do a lesson, Coach Frank, myself, Ryan, Jaden, any of those guys. But also do other things. Be a kid, have fun, be a kid, enjoy yourself, right?
Well, it's the Wayne Gretzky story. His father Well, he said that one year Wayne said to his dad, listen, I want to play in a tournament this year. And they said, oh, you're going to play in one tournament, but that's the last one you're going to play. And he said, because someone might be going to play baseball. So Wayne Gretzky didn't even play hockey in the summer because his father had to play something else.
Yeah.
So.
All right, the last bit of information that we're going to talk about here is how I feel like there's been a shift in youth hockey and the culture of youth hockey from parents down to the kids, and how people treat tryouts and where they're playing and all that kind of view. I feel like each year more and more you see kids jumping around teams and traveling all over the place and chasing letters and trying to get up on the competition and make a better team, or what they think is a better team, changing organizations and whatnot. And now we live in an area where it's very densely populated as far as both players and teams. There are a lot of options where if you live somewhere else in the country, you might not have as many options of teams that you can sign up for and so forth. Where here in northern New Jersey, there are a ton of options. And I feel like there's been a shift in the sense of it's just that people have gotten away from why we sign our kids up for youth books. And it has become, for some people, a social aspect of a social status aspect, I should say, of for the kids. They go to school and they sit there and say, I play AAA hockey. I play AAA hockey, or vice versa. You're no good at hockey because you don't play AAA. Mm-hmm. And from a parent's perspective, I think there's a lot now that has gone on to my kid plays AAA hockey, becomes social status for their child, for them as a parent to say where their child plays. And I think that unfortunately we've kind of gotten away a little bit from why we play hockey and why we play these sports to begin with. And listen, I grew up in an era, I'm not that old, but as a kid growing up, I played pretty much for the same team from first year Pee Wee until we graduated high school. And I played with the same group of guys for the most part, give or take a few guys who, leave here or there. No, like I took tier 2 hockey. I was a decent tier 2 hockey player. I was never a stud. We had some pretty good teams. And at the end of the day, I always remember my dad would ask me once trials progressed, what do you want to do? Do you want to stay with your team, or do you want to try and further that team go somewhere else? My answer was always, I want to play with my friends. I like it here. And that was the end of the story. Mm-hmm. My dad wasn't dragging me to all these tryouts. We weren't driving all over New Jersey to try to make a better team or anything. It was, where do you want to play? This is where I want to play. Great. End of story. Mm-hmm. And I feel like now we hear stories of parents driving all over the state from New Jersey to New York and they're getting cut from every single AAA team that they go to, and that answer is not good enough for them. So they're driving now an hour and a half, 2 hours to practice because they finally get a AAA team that's the worst AAA team in the country. But hey, they play in AAA, right? And I think that we've gotten away from what this is supposed to be about. And no one's going to remember that you played on a AAA team that won 2 games when you were 15 years old. Right? And what you're going to remember is the friends you make, the positive experiences, and you would hope the positive experience, because you better remember the negative experiences too. Right? And if hockey has become a negative experience of just driving all over the country to chase these letters, then that's the negative experience you're going to have with hockey. Right? Some of my my biggest memories from hockey, I think right now, 2 of my most vivid memories that I had playing youth hockey with a lot of my friends was a tournament we won in Hershey. We had to be the next 14U or 16U, but one in that range. It was just a tier 2 tournament we won in Hershey. That was a blast, right? And the other vivid memory I have is my very last game of 18U, sitting in the locker room after the game, of realizing it's over.
Right.
This is my last ever game.
Yeah.
Those are my 2 biggest memories.
Yeah.
It's not the regular season wins and losses. It's not what level we played. It's not, it was the experiences that I had and the people I was with. And I think that's super important because 99.99% of the time, these kids are not going to the NHL. They're not. I think of just my birth year in the state of New Jersey. I could be wrong. I probably have to do more research to figure it out. One player that I know in the entire state of New Jersey went to the NHL. He's currently still playing as complimentary. That's it.
Yeah.
So it's why are we dragging our kids all over the place when they're 12 years old and they're 11 years old and chasing letters and it's not. Yeah.
It's kind of interesting because this year coming up on my 39th season. So when you spend 39 years behind the bench and you're doing this for 39 years, you kind of learn a little bit of the ropes. You should hope you learn a little bit of the ropes, and I can't agree with you more. I mean, one of the things that get lost is learning lessons in life, right? How to win, how to lose, how to get along with other people, and you're not going to like everything you come across, and you're going to go for a job one day, and you're not always going to get the job you want. But I will say that for me personally, the involvement was, and this is where it hits exactly what you said. When I first started out, it was like how many times did I win a gold medal, and how many times did I win a district, and how many times did I win first place, and how many times did I win a tournament, and silver medals, and all kinds of stuff. And it's like, oh, this is my record, and this is who I am. And then as I found out as I got older, it all became about relationships. There were players that I've coached. There's one guy I coached. He's a quick little story about him. His name is Billy Nips. And Billy Nips played for me at Clarkstown South, 1999 and 2000, which is now 26 years ago. And I remember being in the locker room with Billy. And one of the first days he was an 8th grader playing with 9th, 10th, 11th graders. And I said to the kids, what are we going to do in practice today? And I said, well, we're doing nothing but sprint. Unless one of you guys can go down to the track and carry a bag around in your teeth 2 laps. And Billy Nips took the bag down and he carried it around the track with his teeth for 2 complete laps. But anyway, long and short of it is Billy Nips becomes, right now he's a Navy SEAL team leader, one of the top Navy SEALs in the country. But my point is that we still talk today. As a matter of fact, a couple of days ago, he's somewhere in Europe. But the fact is that I have a relationship. Johnny Redkin played for Suffolk High School. He was the leading scorer in the state one year. I still talk to him. So it's about relationships, about coming across people. It's not just about, it's not all about the scoreboard. And that's something that people, that's just need to understand.
Yeah, and I totally agree with that. I always say the biggest thing for me, the biggest reason why I do this is the people I meet and the relationships I build. And I think that is very important. I consider myself a player's coach. Listen, I never played Tier 1 hockey. I was not a big guy. I was too small, too slow. I never had the skill to play super high level hockey. But what I do very well as a coach is I connect to people. Right. And I understand the situations and how to motivate people and put them in places that best fits their needs to succeed. Yeah. That's they might not always agree with me. They might think that they're a 50-goal scorer, but when they've never scored more than 4 goals in a season. But as a coach, it's my job to get to know these players and understand them and get them in spots where they're going to be successful. And that's why, whether it's coaching here at Cutting Edge with the Cobras or whether it's coaching at the high school, that is what I love the most. Yeah. And it's about those relationships, and it's about getting players to buy into what you're trying to show.
Well, you mentioned a few seconds ago personality, and that was one little quick other story, and it'll be my last one. Many years ago, I coached a player, and I'll just keep his name to myself, but he was a peewee and very, very, very talented. I would say this is probably maybe 1991, 92. Big kid, lazy. No matter how much I pushed him, he wouldn't move, and I pushed him. And we actually had a game in West Point one night, and somebody went right by him, went in and scored, and he didn't hustle back. And I went over to him, and I got in his ear a little bit. And I was young, I was in my late 20s, and kind of went at the kid a little bit. I yelled at him a little bit, and I took a few steps, walked away, and all of a sudden I hear somebody crying. And I turned around and it was him, and I said to myself, wow, you're a grown man, you just made a 12-year-old cry. And from that moment on, I realized exactly what you said. when you can figure out somebody's personality and what motivates them. So instead of me yelling at him, I just kept patting him on the back. And nice play, and nice. And the next time we called him the secret weapon, you couldn't stop him. So this kid got yelled at, who should have been yelled at by a grown man, which was me. Finally realized this is the wrong way. This kid didn't want to be treated like that, and all of a sudden, bam, he took off. So you're right, what you said. Like when you could find something in somebody to motivate them is a huge factor.
Yeah, and that's what's about. And I think that, like we were saying, kind of backtrack a little bit to the original question that we talked about. I just think that too many, sometimes I do think it's 50-50 split between the parents and the kids. I do think sometimes it's kid driven, sometimes it's parent driven. But I think we're losing sight, and sometimes we're losing sight of what this is all about.
Yeah.
And I think that the hockey industry itself is a problem as well. Because now what you see is some of these teams and organizations, every team's a AAA.
Yeah, that's right. So
everybody's multiple.
It's all AAA.
Everybody's a AAA player. Everyone's a tier 1 player, and it causes a trickle down effect, and it hurts for tier 2 because now you have to backfill with lower players, and it's very watered down.
Yes.
It's not the same.
100%.
How many times do you see now? Because now, for a while, you say hockey the way we can't have multiple teams. You couldn't do Premier Elite anymore at tier 1. You couldn't do American National. But now organizations are kind of, all right, let's see what we can sneak in there. How many, you see a AAA Elite team, AAA this, AAA,
it comes down to a money factor.
Yeah, so congratulations, you're playing on a AA team with a AAA price tag.
Correct.
That's what it is.
Correct.
Yeah, if you're on that second AAA team, you are on a AA team, you're paying AAA money and doing AAA travel, but you're not on AAA.
And I wish at a younger level, well, maybe to all of us, I wish the parents would look into, because I had a child that played too, and again, he played many, many years ago. But if I was looking to put my son somewhere, first of all, I have to kind of be realistic where he fits, but now I'm not saying a AAA player, an actual AAA player should be playing B hockey because of a coach, because what benefit would he get out of that? But I know one thing, if I'm picking a team, I'm picking coach first before I'm picking a level, as long as it's within reason. So I'd rather have my son play with a really solid coach on an A team if he was an average AA player to play in a AA team, just to say I'm playing AA, because I want to get the coaching. That's where I'm going to learn about the sport, the game, and those factors.
And I agree. And if you have a player too who's on that fringe of tier 1, tier 2, I would much rather see that player play on that good AA team and be a first or second line player. They get power play minutes, they get penalty minutes. That's how you learn. Instead of playing third or fourth line on some AAA teams where you get 1 or 2 shifts a game, you never show special teams, and you never learn, you never do anything like that. And I think that gets lost in the sense of, that's where I say I think it comes down to a social aspect for parents and kids to say my kid's a AAA player, or hey, I go to school and I play AAA hockey. Well, you look at the big picture. Do you really play AAA hockey if you're a fourth line player and you get 1 or 2 shifts a period? What's the point? And what is the point? What are you doing there? That's not helping you. That's not helping you grow. It's not helping you, expand. And it should really be about learning life skills, learning how to be a good person, learning how to be a leader. Because those are the things when you eventually age out of hockey and you're in the real world and you're working a business and you're having to lead people and having to work with people. Those skills that you got as a youth, playing youth sports, whether it's hockey, baseball, football, whatever you play, if you did it right and you had good coaches and you're good on good people, you will be successful in the real world.
Yeah, true.
Because of that.
Very true.
Right? So that is what we're building here. I feel like with my high school team that I had, I coach public high school, and I'm not recruiting. I can't sit there and try to get the best players. You go to my school, I have what I have, and that is it. So you got to have a few AAA players and a few A players, a few B players, and you're all together. You're all on the same team.
True.
And what's super important in that kind of aspect is you're not going to be successful if your best players can't lead the weaker players. If they're not going to be good people and they're not going to be leaders, it's very easy for a player at that caliber to put down at that age. We were all teenagers at one point, where you're going. It was very easy to pick on the weaker player, push them down. But for a better player to realize, I need them to win. I need that person to be the best type of player that they can be to win.
Yeah.
That is going to help build up, and that translates and correlates to the workforce as well, in the sense of I have to treat my weakest employee the same way I treat my best employee, because I'm only as strong as my weakest link.
That's true.
So it's all about building life lessons, man. You know, but anything else?
All right,
to add, Frank?
that was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
All right, thank you very much for having me. I appreciate
I
it.
hope everybody learns a little bit and enjoys first episode of season 30. We'll have more to come.
Take care.